Good morning, everyone. My name is Brad Butler. I'm the CTO or Chief Technology Officer and co-founder here at Acropolis Technology Group. I wanted to thank everyone for joining us today on our live webinar on the Office 365 Power Suite. So with that, it's 10 a.m. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So the agenda for today is we're going to go over what is the Microsoft Power Suite. I'm going to cover the main applications that are included in that. I'm going to talk about the Power Apps. I'm going to do a demo of Power Apps, and I'm going to do a demo with Power Automate. And then I'm going to have some time at the end for questions and answers. Hopefully answers if you ask the right questions. So with that, I want to talk about the Power Suite. Power Suite is a set of tools that Microsoft includes with your Office 365 license that really can help a business streamline internal processes, extend applications that they have and tools that they have inside their organization to mobile platforms. We've seen this before where attorneys or investigators at law firms will go out and they will meet with clients, and instead of dragging along their laptop, they can go out there with their iPad and they can capture all the data that they need, regarding that client in a Microsoft form on that iPad. And then when they hit submit, that data then goes back and gets shared with everybody in their office, whether it's via in a SharePoint list, or even it can be written to their line of business, database, depending on the line of business database. But there's a set of tools there that Microsoft gives you for free that comes with canned solutions that just about any end user could go through and utilize to reduce mouse clicks, to give them back more time in their day, or to enhance communication. And I'm going to step through and show how Acropolis and some of our clients are using these tools. So with that, I'm going to jump right in to the demo. And the demo today, we're utilizing Microsoft's Contoso company demo website. It's free demo, so there's no proprietary information or anything like that out there, so I can feel pretty free to do what I need to do there. So let me see. Let me switch over to that real quick. So now we are looking at the Microsoft store portal for their group. We are actually looking at a COVID-19 SharePoint list that I've gone through and created, trying to make it timely and applicable to what people are doing today. So what the SharePoint list is it is a list that has the symptoms that's associated with COVID-19, and the company policy is that before people come into work, they need to log in and verify that they do not have any of these symptoms before they can come into work. So it's a pretty straightforward SharePoint list. So to fill it out in SharePoint, it's very easy. You'd come in, you'd enter your name, and then you have just these check boxes, whether you have the symptoms or not. You come down and you hit save, and then that saves the record, showing that you do not have any of these symptoms. Now, with this list, this is going to be the backbone for a Power App that we're going to use to push out to end users' mobile devices so that they can do this while they're at home without having to get on a computer, and make it very easy, very simple. So to do this, Microsoft makes it simple with the SharePoint list. You just have to come up to this Power Apps, and we're going to hit Create an App. Comes over here, we have to give it a name. I'll call it COVID, COVID-19 screener app. Name it whatever you want. So at this point, Power Apps is going out. It's analyzing the data and the structure of that SharePoint list, and it's going through and it's basically going to create the straw man of this app for us very easily. And you can do this with any sort of app or any sort of SharePoint list. You know, it could be a you know, vacation request calendar or a vacation request list. You know, it can be just about anything in your organization that runs on a SharePoint list. So with that, the app comes up. It's all web-based. So on the screen, we have a couple things. You have, you know, your file where you normally save. This is your home screen here with your app in the middle. You can see that this is formatted for a phone. You can come in, you can change this formatting. You can format it for a tablet if you like, if you have a more complex list, or like I stated earlier, you're, you know, one of the investigators or attorneys that's going out and collecting data, you know, on an iPad or something like that. So on the screen, you have home, you have insert. These are where you get all your different forms and actions and things like that for your application. View, you can change data sources, media, etc. So over here on the left in the tree view, this is your app, and it's made up of what they call screens. And then underneath screens, you have this particular control is called a gallery. And then you have all the different sections underneath your gallery. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to step through the screens. So you have a detail screen. So this actually shows the detail record from that initial screen that you select. Then you have your edit screen. Now in here, you notice that these switches, they say on off because they're toggles. You know, obviously that's not what we want for this app, and I'm going to show you how we can change these things very easily. Back to the browse screen, come up, we're going to look at this top header. It gives you a refresh button, a sort, and then a button for new. And this is all basically straight out of the box, very simple, no customization or anything. And then you have your button here because we created the one record. I'm going to switch back to the SharePoint list. We created the one record here that is showing up, you know, as the top record in this app. So with this app, you can test the app in the SharePoint screen by coming up and clicking on this little play button, and then this runs the app within your web browser, so you can interact with it and do what you need to do. So if you want to click the button to view, it lists it here. You come up here, you click the back button, it takes you back. If we want to create a new record, we're going to say this is Mike, and see these switches say on off. That's we're going to change that because that doesn't make sense. And then you click your submit button up here, and now that record's been submitted and it takes us back to the original screen. And that is the default functionality without any customization or anything. So now I'm going to go through and let's do a little customization. The first thing I want to do and demonstrate is how to change these labels, because on off, that really doesn't make sense. So looking at the screen, you have an edit form, and that is this box here where all of the data entry forms are, or the data entry devices. So we're going to expand that, and we come down and we see that these are different data cards. I'm going to pick fever because that one's on top. So by looking at this, notice we have a lock here. That means that we cannot make any changes to it. So I'm going to come over to advanced. I'm going to unlock it. So now we can make changes in this field. And then I'm going to come down, I'm going to hit more options. Actually, I'm going to go to properties. No. Yep. I'm going to go to advanced, more options. I'm going to click the control here where it's on off. And now over here on the side, we look at all the properties for this control, and it says false text off. We're going to change that to be no, and we're going to change this to be yes. So simply, just by simply doing that and changing the fields here, this is how you can go through and change, you know, the different settings and the wording for the different controls. You know, we can come here and do it again. I have to unlock it. So now that it's unlocked, I can come back to here, change this to no, change this one to yes. And you can modify the application just that simply. You know, it's very easy. The one thing about this application is, since it all runs through Office 365, it has access to, you know, who that user is. So we already know who the user is. So instead of them having to type in their name, we're going to come through and we're going to change this real quick, and we're going to hit unlock. And now that it's unlocked, we can come up, and looking up here, we have the default action. This is very similar to Excel. You click the drop down, and this lists all the different properties of that control. And we're going to say the default action for this, instead of it being parent default, we're going to come in and we're going to say it's user. We do that for the function, we hit the button, and then we can have it be email, full name. We can even pull in their image if they have their picture listed, but we're just going to say full name. I'm going to hit enter. And now, because it's a demo site and I'm the MOD administrator, it populates it like that. It's very easy to do, very simple. Now, once, you know, let's imagine that we've gone through all the settings and, you know, we've got this customized the way we want it to, and we're ready to push it out to our end users. The only thing we have to do is we have to come up here to File. We have to save it. And then you have this button here that says Publish. And then when you click Publish, this would then be pushed out to all of your end users. On your end users, whether they have iPhone or Android, all they have to do is download the Microsoft Power app from the App Store. And then whenever we publish it here, because this, without getting into the different security of defining who gets the app, this is set up organizational wide. This would then be published out to everybody within your organization. So it's very easy to do, very simple. Yeah, so just go ahead and publish this version. And now that version is ready to go for all your end users. Very easy, very seamless. So now they can log in, they can enter this data in on their phone, and as they do that, it will real time come back to your SharePoint list. Okay, so those are Power Apps, and there's a lot more functionality. This is more to kind of get the juices flowing and kind of get you thinking about a way you could use a SharePoint list and use a Power App within your organization to solve one of your business needs. So with that, you know, that's great. You know, now we have a way that people can enter data from outside the organization in a secure manner without having to come to SharePoint and deal with, you know, the login and all of the hoops you'd have to jump through to get into that. But that really doesn't streamline anything. That doesn't make it easier for anyone. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is Power Automate. Now, Power Automate is a tool, and it uses what they call flows. So we're going to create a flow within Power Automate. And over here, it just gives you suggestions here, like what kind of flow do you want to create. So I'm going to do an approval when a new item is added. You know, very simple. Now it's launching the Power Automate web page, and it's waiting. And it's basically in the background, it's setting up everything for the flow. On this first screen, it's saying we're going to use Office 365, SharePoint, we're going to use approvals, and Office 365 users. So you just hit continue here. And when it comes up, it already populates what SharePoint site you're going to use, what the list is. It basically sets up everything that you need, you know, to do this approval. The one thing you do have to fill out is you have to fill out, you know, who it's assigned to. So in this instance, I'm going to pick myself as the administrator. And in here, this is going to be the title of the approval. It's assigned to the mod administrator. These are the details that it's going to send. It's going to send the link to the item with the name. So at this point, all you have to do is hit save. And then it comes up here. It says start approval, a new item is added. It tells me up here it's saving. Okay, so now that it's saved, let's go through and let's step through what this actually does. I'm going to go back to the COVID-19 screener app just to give the full kind of demo here. I'm going to run it. I'm going to create a new item. It already automatically picked up on my name because we set that setting earlier. I'm going to tell it yes to all these different settings. Okay, and I'm going to hit submit. So now it's there, it's listed. I'm going to jump back to the SharePoint portal. I need to refresh the page. So now it shows the new settings here. Okay. Now over here, I'm going to go into the flow, which it shows it here. And I'm going to look at my flows because I want to see if this flow is running. See, start approval when new item is added, shows it here. This shows all the different flows that I've created. I'm going to go to more commands and I'm going to say run history. So it shows me that it's currently running, takes 16 seconds. So as this runs, what I should see is I should see an email, which I see right here, Microsoft Flow, please review mod administrator. Click on that. You know, let's see what's going on here. Here's the link, so I'll click the link. And it takes me and it shows that data. So now I can look at this and I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Now I'm going to go ahead and approve it. Lets me type in a reason and I hit submit. So now what happens is it goes through, it approves it, and it sends an email to the end user saying, you know, your request has been approved, which is great. Now I want to go back and I want to look at my SharePoint portal and refresh this. Now, one thing I see here is that in that flow, it didn't update the approved status. So that means I need to modify it. I need to modify that flow to update that approved status. So I'm going to come into the flow and come back to the web page. I'm clicking back here. Go back to my flows. I'll come over and I'll hit edit. So now I want to update that SharePoint list. So I can simply come in and say, after I do the approval, click the button here. I want to add an action. And I want to say update SharePoint item. So I want to click that. I need to pick the SharePoint list or the site. I want to pick the list name. Now here I need to tell it what item I want to update. So I come over here to dynamic content. I'm going to pick the ID because that's flowing from the approval. And then title, I want to come over here and I want to pick the title from the SharePoint. Let me see here. There it is. Okay, so there's title. Now, one thing I want to do is, if you notice, it comes in and puts fever, nose, shortness of breath, cough, etc. and no. So if it updates the SharePoint item, it's going to update it with these values. I don't want it to do that. So I'm going to come through and I'm going to hit custom value. And I'm going to say, you know, I want that to be the fever from the item above, so on and so forth as I go through and pick all this. Then lastly, the approved status, I want to come in and I want to pick the response to approve or reject. So we go through, we set all that up, and then we would save it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go back to a flow that I created earlier because, and I'm going to I'm going to turn off the one I created earlier, and this one here is the one I'm going to turn on, so this one will take effect. And just to show you kind of what the difference is on the update item, I went through and updated all this. It is basically all I did. So for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through and add all those just because it is time consuming. So now I've turned that flow back on. I'm going to go back to my Power App. I want to create a new one, and this time, even though I had defined it earlier to be this user, I can override it. I can say Joe. Do that. You know, there's the settings. I save it. He gets added. Come back. There's the SharePoint list. There's Joe. Come over here to my email, and here any second, the email should come through. With the update. Again, I'm going to check and make sure that it's running correctly, even though it should be. Yeah, so actually, I would see it here if it was running, but it doesn't look like it's running for some reason. So we'll just go back. We will turn it off and turn it back on. And then we'll do it one more time. Okay, so anyway, while we're waiting for this email to come through, I want to go through and I'm going to show you a couple other things about Power Automate with this. It'll take a little bit for it to load, for it to run, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hit New, and I want to create another Power Automate flow from a template. So when this comes up and shows you all the different things that you can do within Power Automate that are very easy to turn on. Any end user in this organization can do these for themselves, such as save an Office 365 email attachment to OneDrive for Business. So as you get email, your attachments will automatically get saved to OneDrive. I personally like one here with forms. Now, what Microsoft Forms are, and I can come back and I can show you those, is this an easy way to create a form to capture data other than from a Power App? Oh, and that sounds like I just got the email. See, so here, now that flow ran. So I'm going to jump back. Sorry for jumping around. I want to approve Fred now. Okay, so now that he's been approved, comes up, tells me it's approved, and then I come back to the portal, I refresh it, and now over here on the side, you can see where it's been updated and that request has been approved. So pretty slick, pretty simple. You know, and that is Power Apps and Forms kind of in a nutshell. The one thing that I want to talk about here, because I want to leave a couple minutes for questions, but any end user can come out, you can scroll through here and you can see all the different flows that Microsoft has built for you that are very easy to implement. You know, you don't have to create a lot of code or do anything like that. It's very simple. You know, you have all these different connectors for your different line of business apps. You know, so if you use Salesforce, there's a connector in here for Salesforce. There's connectors down here that enhance what you can do. One of my favorites is, down here is Text Sync. This one here, it's a premium service, so you do have to pay a little bit extra for it. But I like this one because I can set up a flow that if I get an important email from a client or you know, from my business partner or somebody like that, it'll send me a text telling me that I had the email. So that way there, if I'm out of the office, I'm aware of what's taking place for those, you know, for those VIPs and very important people that I work with on a daily basis. That's really all I have for the quick demo. Again, it was very high level, just something to make you aware of what Power Apps and Power BI is capable of. Let's turn it over and see if there's any questions. Maria?
Okay, so we have one question from Pat Shanty.
Okay.
And he says, how can Acropolis help companies that have line of business software databases bring their data from their application into SharePoint lists so that companies' regular applications can talk to custom Office 365 Power Apps?
Well, I mean, how we can do that is there are Power BI connectors, like what I was showing earlier, if I can switch back to that. There's connectors that talk to SQL and MySQL, so we're able to pull the data from those applications and have that data exposed into a SharePoint list. It really depends on the application and the setup. You know, some application providers have APIs that we can use, you know, so we can do it in a very controlled manner, you know, depending on the application, but we have a lot of options for what we can do there.
Hold on. Okay, we've got one more question, and it's from Brini, and it says, okay, you make this look easy, but will Acropolis help me get this app set up to screen people for COVID?
Yeah, extremely. It's extremely easy. We can do that very easily. You know, the app I've shown here is the very basic app. If you're going to roll this out to your company, you'd want to add some security around it, but we can definitely help by doing that.
Okay, thank you so much, Brad. I think that's all the time we have today and all the questions. And if we weren't able to answer your question, please feel free to email them in. We will be sending a follow-up email with this webinar so you can watch at your own convenience, and be on the lookout for our next webinar. As usual, we want to know, what would you like our next webinar to cover? Let us know what you think. Thanks everybody for attending. We'll see you at the next webinar. Thanks, Brad.
Thanks. Thanks everybody.